Disney's upcoming live-action Lilo and Stitch remake may have just committed the ultimate crime against rock and roll royalty by cutting Elvis Presley from the film entirely. The King, erased. The soundtrack, altered. The legacy, under threat. Why? Because of allegations, accusations, and an increasingly complicated relationship between Elvis Presley's image and the modern world. Did Disney try to quietly distance the film from Elvis Presley due to woke culture? Lilo and Stitch wasn't just a movie. It was a cultural lightning bolt in the early 2000s. Released in 2002, during what many call the second golden age of Disney animation, it stood out, not for being a fairy tale or a princess epic, but for being small, weird, and deeply human. And at the center of its weird, beating heart was a little blue alien and Elvis Presley. To understand why the possible removal of Elvis from the new live-action remake is causing so much backlash, we have to rewind the clock and remember just how vital Elvis was to the original film's identity. Lilo was more than just a quirky little girl from Hawaii. She was misunderstood, lonely, and obsessed with Elvis. It wasn't just a passing hobby. It was part of her identity. In the film, Elvis's music wasn't just background filler. It was used like a character in itself. It helped bridge the gap between Earth and Stitch. It gave the film its heartbeat. And most importantly, it gave kids who were born decades after Elvis's heyday a brand new gateway into his world. The movie didn't just use one Elvis song, it used 6. Stuck on You, Suspicious Minds, Heartbreak Hotel, Burning Love, Devil in Disguise, Hound Dog. Each track had a purpose. Each track hit different emotional beats in the movie. Stuck on You plays when Stitch starts becoming part of the family. Burning Love blasts in a chaotic moment, emphasizing Stitch's uncontainable energy. Devil in Disguise mirrors Lilo's fear and mistrust toward the outside world. There's even a full scene where Lilo explains how to be more like Elvis, complete with Stitch dressed in the iconic jumpsuit, learning to be a model citizen by channeling the king himself. That moment, it became a pop culture phenomenon. Disney merchandised it. They sold Stitch in the white rhinestone outfit. You could buy him as an Elvis plush at Disneyland. Posters, mugs, t-shirts. Stitch as Elvis became a mascot, a tribute, a hybrid of two cultural icons. The brilliance of using Elvis wasn't just aesthetic. It created an emotional through line for the entire film. Elvis symbolized both rebellion and tenderness. That duality mirrored Stitch's own journey from chaos to compassion. For Lilo, Elvis wasn't just music. He was her connection to a world beyond her island, a voice of safety, strength, and rhythm during a time when her own life was unstable. And when you really think about it, the pairing made sense. Elvis, like Stitch, was once considered dangerous, misunderstood, too wild for the world. But both became beloved, softened by love and time. Stitch becomes part of a family. Elvis becomes a symbol of connection. Through his music, Lilo finds a way to communicate. Through his swagger, Stitch learns how to fit in. When the movie came out, something unexpected happened. Kids wanted to know more about Elvis. Parents had to explain who he was. Suddenly, the King was trending again. The soundtrack? It charted. Old records started getting new plays. Burning Love was suddenly being sung by 5-year-olds who had no idea it was once controversial. In a strange twist of fate, Disney had resurrected Elvis for an entirely new generation. So when rumors started circulating that the new Lilo and Stitch remake might not include Elvis at all, it struck a nerve. Because this wasn't just about a soundtrack, it was about identity. If you take Elvis out of Lilo and Stitch, what's left? Sure, you have Aliens, Hawaii, and Sisterly Love. But you've stripped out the rock and roll spirit that made the original so unique. You've taken away Lilo's obsession. You've muted the emotional score that carried the entire movie. And let's not ignore the irony. In 2002, Disney proudly showcased Elvis. They didn't just tolerate him, they celebrated him. They made him part of their brand. And now, in 2025, they might be trying to quietly erase him. Why? Is it because times have changed? Is it because Elvis is no longer considered safe for a children's film? Is it because his legacy, once untouchable, is now being re-examined under a modern lens? Maybe. But if so, it's worth remembering what made the original film work. Lilo and Stitch wasn't sanitized Disney. It was messy, emotional, chaotic. It was about a girl who didn't fit in and a creature who didn't belong. Elvis fit perfectly into that narrative. He was the sound of rebellion, the sound of misfits, the sound of a generation finding its own voice. Removing Elvis from the remake isn't just a creative change, it's a symbolic one. It suggests that Disney wants to update the story not just visually, but ideologically. It raises a difficult question. Can you modernize something without erasing what made it matter in the first place? The original film was lightning in a bottle. Its blend of Hawaiian culture, science fiction, found family themes, and rock and roll energy was something no other Disney movie had ever done. And part of that lightning was Elvis. Maybe the new film will find its own magic. Maybe it will replace the king with something new. But for many fans, especially those who grew up with the original, Elvis isn't just a piece of nostalgia. He's part of the soul of Lilo and Stitch, and that's not so easy to replace. Elvis Presley was once considered the definition of American entertainment, but in recent years, that legacy has come under a much sharper lens. And when it comes to Disney, a company obsessed with public image, family values, and global marketability, that scrutiny becomes a serious liability. Because in 2025, it's no longer enough for a celebrity to be iconic. They also have to be clean. And Elvis, no matter how beloved, no longer fits that mold for everyone. The most controversial issue centers around Priscilla Presley. Specifically, the age at which she met and began a relationship with Elvis. Priscilla has long maintained that she and Elvis met when she was just 14 years old and he was 24. They wouldn't marry until years later, but the age gap and the nature of their early relationship has become a major talking point in the age of Me Too and accountability culture. In the early 2000s, this was barely a blip on the cultural radar. But today, it's a headline, a trending topic, a potential scandal. Priscilla's own recent biopic, titled simply Priscilla and directed by Sofia Coppola, didn't shy away from the uncomfortable truth. It reframed Elvis not as a dreamy heartthrob, but as a deeply flawed man with a controlling side, especially toward a much younger Priscilla. That film reignited long-standing debates. Was Elvis grooming Priscilla? Should his legacy be reevaluated in light of these facts? Should he still be celebrated, especially in projects aimed at children? These questions aren't just moral, they're strategic, and they land directly on the desks of Disney executives who have to weigh art against public opinion, creativity against controversy. Because the last thing Disney wants is another firestorm. Just think about how the internet reacts to legacy figures today. Michael Jackson, R. Kelly, Woody Allen. The era of separating the art from the artist is vanishing. Social media doesn't just allow opinions to spread, it amplifies outrage. And Disney, above all, avoids outrage. They've been burned before. Song of the South is locked away permanently. Episodes of The Simpsons featuring Michael Jackson have vanished from Disney+. Splash Mountain has been rebranded. Even small things, like offensive lyrics in old animated films, are now flagged with disclaimers or quietly edited out. In this climate, the question becomes, is it worth the risk to keep Elvis front and center in a children's movie? From Disney's perspective, it might seem safer to just remove the problem altogether. No Elvis, no questions, no risk of boycotts, no angry TikTok commentary, no Twitter threads dissecting the age gap, the grooming allegations, the darker chapters of his legacy. And this isn't just theoretical, it's a real possibility. Because the version of Elvis that existed in the public imagination in 2002 is not the version that exists today. That version was a jumpsuit-wearing, hip-swinging rock star. This version is a complicated figure surrounded by a narrative of power imbalance and outdated norms. And yet, here's where the tension really begins. Because while younger audiences might be more critical of Elvis, older audiences still adore him. The Elvis fan base is vast and loud and fiercely loyal. They don't just stream his songs, they buy the merch, they visit Graceland, they post tribute videos. For them, removing Elvis from Lilo and Stitch isn't just a business decision, it's a betrayal. And Disney knows that too. So now they're trapped in a paradox. Include Elvis, and they risk a modern backlash. Remove him, and they enrage their nostalgic base. It's a lose-lose scenario. But that's the world we live in now. The same dilemma hit other Disney properties. In the live-action Mulan, Mushu was removed, not because he was controversial, but because Chinese audiences found him culturally insensitive. In The Little Mermaid, race-swapping Ariel ignited weeks of online fury. With Peter Pan and Wendy, the portrayal of native characters was completely overhauled. Even Snow White is getting retooled, with Disney delaying its release over sensitivity concerns. In all these cases, Disney made decisions based on public pressure and the evolving standards of what's considered appropriate. And that's likely what's happening here too. But this time, it cuts deeper. Because this isn't just about fixing something broken, it's about possibly deleting one of the most iconic elements of a beloved film. Elvis wasn't a background detail in Lilo and Stitch. He was central to the tone, the humor, the emotion. He was woven into the fabric of the movie. Without him, what's left? A different story, a sanitized version, a film that might look the same, but feels hollow. And that's the risk Disney is taking. In trying to avoid controversy, they might erase the soul. Yet not all hope is lost, because while the threat of removal looms large, the trailer offers a glimmer of contradiction. Devil in disguise is there, loud and clear, which begs the question, is this inclusion a sign that Disney backed down from cutting Elvis? Or is it just trailer bait, a calculated nod to keep fans calm, while the final film tells a different story? The answer might lie somewhere in the middle. Disney, as it has done many times before, could compromise. Maybe Elvis is there, but only barely. One song. No character references, no merchandise. A ghost of what he once was in the original. Or maybe the backlash to the idea of cutting him was stronger than anticipated. Maybe Disney tested an Elvis-less version and saw the fan reaction plummet. Maybe, just maybe, the king's crown was too heavy to take off completely. In either case, the controversy tells us one thing. In today's entertainment landscape, legacy is never safe. Not even when you're the king of rock and roll. Not even in a cartoon about an alien in Hawaii. And for Disney, that creates a question they can't answer easily. How do you balance nostalgia with modern values? How do you honor the past without stepping on the present? And more urgently, how do you remake Lilo and Stitch without breaking it? Because sometimes, Trying to clean up history only makes the present more complicated. When the rumors hit that Disney might be removing Elvis Presley from the Lilo and Stitch live-action remake, the internet erupted. Fans were furious, confused, and heartbroken. Articles were written, TikToks were made. The debate caught fire. But for a while, Disney stayed completely silent. No confirmations, no denials, just silence. And then, out of nowhere, the trailer dropped. It was bright, colorful, full of lush Hawaiian scenery and CGI-stitched chaos. It gave us glimpses of familiar moments: the beach, the hula class, the spaceship crashing to Earth. But buried under all of that was something no one expected to hear. "You're the devil in disguise." Elvis, the king. His voice, crystal clear, rising from the background like a ghost. It was unmistakable. That moment hit like a bolt of lightning. Because for weeks, maybe even months, everyone thought he was gone. And yet, here he was, singing over the footage like he'd never left. For fans of the original film, it felt like a victory, a return to form, a sign that Disney hadn't lost its mind after all. Elvis was still part of the story. Or was he? Because when you really look at the trailer and listen carefully, you start to notice something strange. The song is there, but only briefly. It fades in, then out. It's not front and center. It doesn't accompany any of the emotional moments. It isn't even paired with a clear Elvis reference visually. There's no Stitch in a rhinestone jumpsuit. No Lilo clutching a vinyl. No mention of the king at all. Just a song, floating in the background. That's where the doubt creeps back in. Was this inclusion just a marketing trick? A way to keep angry fans pacified? Was it always part of the plan? Or a last-minute decision made after the backlash hit? And if Elvis truly is part of the movie, why haven't we seen more? Let's break it down. The original animated film didn't just include Elvis music, it showcased it. Whole scenes were built around his songs. Lilo explained Elvis to Stitch like he was a prophet. She used his music as a code of behavior. Stitch studied Elvis like a blueprint for how to be human. That's not subtle, that's character-defining. But in the trailer for the new film, there's none of that. No Elvis-themed scenes. No dialogue about the king. No visual references. Just the song. That leads to a growing theory. The trailer might be a misdirect. But in the trailer for the new film, there's none of that. No Elvis-themed scenes. No dialogue about the king. No visual references. Just the song. That leads to a growing theory. The trailer might be a misdirect. Studios have done this before. Sometimes a song appears in a trailer but never shows up in the film. Sometimes trailers use nostalgia to sell a tone the final product doesn't actually deliver. It's marketing 101. Sell the vibe, not the reality. So what does that mean for Lilo and Stitch? It means we don't actually know if Elvis is truly in the movie, or if this is just smoke and mirrors. And this isn't the first time Disney has played this game. Look back at the Aladdin live-action remake. The trailers were filled with music, colors, and classic genie jokes, but the final film had major changes to characters and tone. Mulan removed all the songs and Mushu. The Little Mermaid changed lyrics. Peter Pan and Wendy had a trailer that promised classic nostalgia, but delivered something much more modern and politically cautious. Disney knows how to manipulate a trailer. They know how to throw just enough of the old magic in to get people watching, even if the final product feels completely different. Which brings us back to Devil in Disguise. This specific song choice is interesting. In the original Lilo and Stitch, it was used to highlight Stitch's dual nature, his struggle between chaos and compassion. He looked like a pet, but inside he was a weapon, a monster. That contrast was essential to the story. So if this new film is using the same song, does it mean they're using it in the same way? Or was it just a convenient Elvis track that fit the trailer's tempo? If Disney had truly embraced the Elvis connection again, wouldn't they have showcased more? Wouldn't there be dialogue, character posters, merch, a mention in the press release? But so far, nothing. There's no official soundtrack listing, no confirmation from the Elvis estate, no promotional tie-ins, no Stitch in a jumpsuit Funko Pop. And that's suspicious, because Disney knows how to merchandise nostalgia. If Elvis was a major part of this movie, they'd be selling it already. Which leads to a more unsettling theory. Maybe the Elvis song in the trailer was a late addition, a response, a patch. Think about the timeline. The backlash against removing Elvis began long before the trailer dropped. Fans noticed the silence. They saw no Elvis in early leaks, no confirmation in casting announcements. The rumors started, and Disney didn't correct them. Maybe they didn't want to. But then came the noise, the tweets, the articles, the TikTok clips racking up millions of views. People were angry. People were demanding answers. And then, suddenly, Elvis is in the trailer, almost like a bandage on a bullet wound. So now we're left in limbo. The trailer says one thing, the history says another. And Disney, as usual, refuses to say anything at all. That's what makes this situation so frustrating and so fascinating. We're watching a legacy be toyed with in real time. We're seeing the push and pull between nostalgia and modern branding, between fan loyalty and corporate fear, between the memory of Elvis Presley and the memory Disney wants to create instead. And it all hinges on one question. Is Elvis really in this movie? Or did Disney just give us a taste of the king to shut us up? Because if that trailer is the only place we hear Elvis, if the final film erases him entirely, then the backlash will only grow louder. And Disney knows it. As soon as the trailer dropped, fans swarmed online spaces to dissect every frame, every lyric, every hint. Reddit threads lit up with breakdowns of the soundtrack. TikTok videos with millions of views speculated about what Devil in Disguise really meant. YouTube reactors paused the trailer mid-song, asking the same question. Is this confirmation that Elvis is back in the movie, or just Disney throwing fans a bone? And behind all of that, whispers started to spread. Rumors, leaks, and anonymous sources claiming to know what's really going on behind Disney's tightly closed doors. According to several now-deleted posts on Reddit, insiders claimed that there were two versions of the Lilo and Stitch remake in early development. One version included 3 Elvis tracks and kept the original storyline intact, with Lilo's Elvis obsession still woven into the plot. The other version reportedly stripped all Elvis content entirely and replaced it with modern pop songs and lo-fi acoustic tracks. That version, the rumors said, tested better with certain focus groups, but left fans of the original movie feeling like something was missing. One self-proclaimed former Disney contractor even posted that the original Elvis scenes were on the chopping block as of late 2023. The reason? Licensing disputes. The Elvis Presley estate, now controlled by Authentic Brands Group, reportedly asked for a much higher fee than they did in 2002. Disney, already struggling with ballooning budgets across its live-action remakes, was hesitant to pay. They've seen how a single casting choice or song removal can create weeks of bad headlines. So now, they're walking a tightrope. Do they stay silent and hope the trailer calms everyone down? Or do they come clean and release the full music list, even if it confirms everyone's worst fears. Right now, no one knows. But one thing is clear. This isn't just a children's movie anymore. It's a battleground between nostalgia and reputation management, between fan loyalty and corporate caution. And Elvis Presley, dead since 1977, is somehow at the center of one of the most contentious Disney controversies in years. And all because of a single song. We're now in the strange space between speculation and confirmation. The trailer is out, the discourse is raging, and Disney remains tight-lipped. So the question on everyone's mind is, what's going to happen next? There are still a few months left before the Lilo and Stitch live-action remake hits screens. That means the film could still be undergoing changes. And when it comes to music, edits can happen incredibly late in the process. Songs can be swapped, dialogue can be re-recorded, and scenes can be reshaped to fit a new tone. In the digital age, even after theatrical release, Disney has the power to alter films quietly for the Disney Plus version, without ever issuing a statement. So, what are the possibilities? One option is that Disney decides to include Elvis, but only minimally. Maybe one song in the entire film. Maybe just Devil in Disguise, used quietly during a montage or background moment. This would technically satisfy fans without fully restoring the Elvis-centric tone of the original. Another possibility is that the trailer was a calculated bluff. The song could have been licensed for promotional use only, a practice that's not uncommon in Hollywood. If that's true, then Elvis may not appear in the film at all. Just a tease, just enough to generate buzz and calm angry fans. Then, there's the optimistic theory that the backlash worked, that Disney saw the fan reaction, saw the demand, and pivoted behind the scenes. Maybe they've reinserted more Elvis tracks. Maybe the merchandising leaks that omitted Elvis were based on earlier concepts, and new Elvis-themed merch is already in production. We don't know yet, and that's part of the tension. Because right now, fans are being left in the dark. Disney is choosing to stay quiet. And that silence is creating more chaos, not less. Some people believe the studio will use a dual strategy. Keep the film mostly Elvis-light, but offer a deluxe soundtrack with bonus tracks or alternate scenes on Disney+. Others think there may be region-based versions. One version for the US market with more Elvis, and a toned-down international version where he's completely removed. And then there's the most controversial possibility. Disney simply doesn't care. Maybe they think the movie will make money regardless. Maybe they believe the backlash will blow over. Maybe they've calculated that younger audiences won't miss Elvis, and that older fans will still show up out of curiosity or nostalgia. If that's the case, then nothing will change. Elvis will stay minimized, and Disney will move on. But if that happens, they're playing a dangerous game. Because Lilo and Stitch isn't just a story. It's a memory, a cultural artifact, a symbol of a very specific era when Disney took risks, made weird choices, and hit emotional gold. Removing Elvis from that story isn't just a creative tweak, it's a redefinition. A corporate rewrite of a film that millions of people grew up loving. And what Disney chooses to do next, whether they embrace the king or bury him, will shape how this remake is remembered. Will it be a respectful update of a beloved classic? Or a sanitized shell that loses the heart of what made the original so special? At this point, all we can do is wait. But one thing's for certain. Disney is watching. They're listening. They're reading the headlines, the Reddit threads, the YouTube comments. Which brings us to this moment right now. What do you think? Should Elvis Presley stay in the live-action Lilo and Stitch remake? Do you think Disney is being too cautious or not cautious enough? Should they honor the original film's legacy and keep the king at the center of the story? Or is it time for a new soundtrack, a new tone, and a new direction? Let us know what you think in the comments below. We want to hear your take. If you grew up with Lilo and Stitch, tell us what the Elvis music meant to you. If you're just now discovering the debate, where do you stand? Hit the like button if you think the king deserves his place back on the throne, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the stories Disney doesn't want you to think about. Because in a world of remakes and rewrites, the only thing more powerful than nostalgia is your voice. So comment below. We're listening.